Cynthia
it
the
helps
YouTuber.
get a better idea of what we're doing. First things first, we're going to decide if the artwork is going to be dry mounted, meaning it's going to go on top. That's an option always. And then you have to decide, okay, how big am I going to create that mat around? Or the other option is to kind of come in and decide, okay, I want to have a mat, but how much space, how much green do we want? So Joy, this is your piece. Let's decide. Okay, do you guys see how we can do this? We're going to pull them kind of apart and decide how much green background. This is why we don't trim our art too close until we've kind of played around with the matting. So that's at its maximum pretty much. Do you want
Should get like
an inch? So roughly like that much? You like that? So once you have it where you're like, okay, I kind of like that spacing around, you're going to take your ruler and measure the distance from side to side. So you get the inside measurement so I know your window cut. And then we'll work our way back. So using the ruler, the line on the ruler is where you start. Don't start in the end of the ruler. And I see right here, this is 8.5 exactly. Perfect. I go the other measurement, and it is close. It's 8 7/8. So I'm going to write my measurements down. 8 7/8. And what was my other measurement? 8.5. And this is the only part where math gets involved. If you want a 2-inch mat, and this happens to be 2.5, you have to add that to your inside measurement. So how thick would you like your frame, Joy? Would you like a 2-inch frame? That's 2 inches. Or do you want it 2.5?
2 inches is fine.
Two. Okay, and that's where you kind of decide, do you want it 2, do you want it 3? 3 is about the max unless you're doing some sort of special. 2 is standard. I wouldn't go any smaller than 1.5. 1 inch really doesn't do much unless you've got a triptych and you've got 3 pieces or together. So 2 inches, so it'd be 2 on each side. So 2 plus 8.5, 10.5 plus 2, 12.5. So there's one measurement, 12.5 by 12 7/8. That is my outside mat that I'm going to cut. Easy peasy. So 12 7/8. And I will go over ruler measurements, and that just happens to be 12.5 because I'm that awesome. So now we have the exact size of our mat board. She wanted 2 inches. Lo and behold, here's exactly 2 inches. I love it when it works out. Yay! You're going to draw, and I'll make sure I've got something that you can see. You're just going to use this as a guide and go all the way around on the back side of the mat. That is important because the blade cuts on a bevel. You don't want to cut on the opposite side. So there is going to be my window. What I like to do is just kind of double check, make sure. Yep, when I put it on, I can see it's going to come over the edges. If it does not come over the edges, now is your time to remeasure. Now to go and cut it. This is the fun part. We have a mat cutter. This is the small one. There's the huge one is in the office. You will see there is a blade with Bazooka Joe. He's to remind you, you need to use the line, okay? See how his gun is reminding you? This matches up with the line you just created. So you slide this in. I loosened it. I'm going to slide it so that my line lines up with the bar. Tighten it. Okay? Try not to pop this out ever. It's a pain to get back in. It slides, don't pull up. So this is all lined in. I'm going to match my line with the bottom red line. There's grooves in here, they all line up. And you want to push straight down. You're going to feel it puncture the paper. Hold down so it doesn't go flying on you. It will. And you want to have steady pressure, because if you let up, the blade will back out, and that's when you get a tear in the mat. So just even pressure all the way down. You pull it back, and you'll see it's cut. So you just rotate, because we have an even 2 inches all the way around. You just work your way around. If you have, like, one side is 4 inches and the other side is 2 inches, that's where you have to start paying attention and moving your guide. But we try to keep it pretty simple. And if you're doing like a layered mat, that can be done. You just have to kind of make sure your next opening would be larger. And there we have it. So we're going to see how well it fits. Remember, one side is a little bit bigger than the other. And there we have it. Joy, you just have to decide. Once you get it centered, you just tape the back on and put a backing. You're good to go. Ta-da! Matting 101.